All right, this TV guide is from 1995. If you know my channel, you know I mostly focus on the 70s and 80s. Probably more emphasis on the 80s. I don't do many from the 90s, but I think this will be my third one. I'm not as familiar with the 90s. I was kind of phasing out of TV a little bit. But obviously the 90s, cable becomes kind of ubiquitous. Most everybody starts to have cable TV. There are more channels, such as the Fox channel. But let's get into this, because we don't want to stare at David Letterman's face too long. So this is March of 1995. And these ones from the 90s are definitely a little thicker than the ones I've done from the 70s and 80s. All right. It's a fun ad. I don't know what kind of Ford that is. Maybe some kind of concept car. Yeah, so this is March of 95. I guess the Oscars might be telecast this week. And if you see my channel, there's always something fun in every one of these. Check out Tracy Gold, looking super fabulous right there. What's going on him? Is that the guy that voiced Simba? Who knows? You all might know. If you're children in the 90s, you probably know more about this stuff than I do. So I'm at a little disadvantage here. All right, I kind of dig this cheers and jeers page. Let's see what they're jeersing this time. They're jeersing the writers of Sybil, pushing their twice divorced lady back into the sack. Okay. And they're jeersing John Lovitz. Oh, he groped Jamie Lee Curtis. Man, you get canceled now. Probably should not even have read that, but I didn't realize what I was reading there. VR, that's kind of fun. In 1995. All right, we still got the cigarette ads going in the 90s. Haven't gotten rid of them completely. Yeah, here's that Oscars thing. Hopefully it'll be on this week. Yeah, it looks like it will, so maybe we'll see a list of who's nominated or something. They used to do that in the 80s ones. We'll see if they do in this one or not. Trace the stars, TV's roots. This is when they started doing all these holiday-themed candies. That was not a thing until probably the late 80s, early 90s. More cigarette ads, all right. Here's Cher. I don't know about that, but it is what it is, right? What's her name was on top of her game. And yeah, 95, Sharon Stone was definitely at the top of her game. Look at how fab Marissa Tomei looks. See, that's how you look fab right there. You don't have to dress like whatever that is right there. All right. Prince crushing it as usual. R.I.P. the legend. Oh boy. Chicago Hunk. Alrighty then. Might want to put some socks on there, guy. Yeah, I think that was that Chicago Hope or whatever. I never watched that show. Again, I shouldn't say that because some of these shows might be ones that you all really watched and loved, and I just wasn't watching a lot of TV in the 90s. Outer Limits was pretty good. There was an old school Outer Limits from like the 60s, and then this one wasn't bad either. Captain Janeway. She gets too much hate. She rocked it as captain. I stand by that. What's going on here? That's the dude who played Worf, I think. Okay. D.D. Pfeiffer's. Okay. Alright, there's lots in here. We're skipping past some of this, but there's plenty of... this is a pretty thick TV guide, like I mentioned. There's the dude who broke Alanis Morissette's heart. Of course, she was like 18 or something when he dated her. Trebek. This is kind of weird how they're telling us, like, Alex Trebek really cooks? Come on. He's got somebody to cook for him. Uh-oh. Alright, I'm a comic fan. We got Gen 13 in the house. Alright, Image Comics. J. Scott Campbell, right? And of course, Jim Lee. Dolores Claiborne. That was a pretty good movie, I think. Might have been Stephen King movie. But in any case, that was a pretty good movie. If you haven't seen it. It's not one that gets a lot of attention anymore. Did a degree at home. VCR report. Let's see what the top rentals in 95 were. True Lies. What an amazing movie. I need to go back and watch that. Clear and Present Danger. The Mask. Wolf is good. It's got a great line in it, but I can't really say it because you kind of got, it has some setup to it. Color of Night was super bizarre. Natural Born Killers. The Shadow was pretty decent. Hopefully you all are watching some of those movies in 95. There's that guy. There's lots to go through, so it looks like I'm skipping past a lot, but there's going to be plenty to go through in this one. O.J. Simpson trial coverage. I still don't understand why the entire nation got, infatuated with that. Right, so let's look here, because, yeah, UPN was on. So I don't know if you all lived during this time and remember the whole chronology, but we had the big three, and then Fox came along in like 88, 87. And then UPN came along, I think, when that Star Trek Voyager show came on. So I was all in on Voyager. So we basically got 5 big channels now. Of course, PBS. Maybe we'll try to see channel 46 in this one and see what kind of stuff UPN was showing. Looks like Saturday morning, Little Mermaid has her own cartoon. I definitely don't remember that. Sonic the Hedgehog, I think that was a cartoon. Saved by the Bell, we all remember that if we were around in the 90s. Yeah, a lot more to choose from now in the 90s than some of the TV guides I've gone through. So who was your favorite on Saved by the Bell? I know who my favorite was. Beakman's World, I vaguely remember that. DuckTales was absolutely all-time classic. Iron Man cartoon from 95. Probably so much some old G.I. Joe ones because they would have been off the air by now. Uh-oh, Bill Nye the Science Guy's on. It's another thing that I just kind of missed out on. It was not the right age group. Animaniacs was great. Free Willy cartoon, wow. So would they come up with a plot every week on Free Willy? That would have been tough ask right there. Aladdin. So do we have Little Mermaid and Aladdin cartoons? Crypt Keeper cartoon. Vaguely remember that. Dudley the Dragon. Hopefully you all watched some of this. This was one that I watched even though I was like 22 or whatever, or however old. This reboot cartoon. Does anybody remember that? So it was kind of like the first CGI cartoon. And it was pretty decent too, but just for the reason it was CGI, is like it stood out from everything else. And I definitely tried to watch it when I could, if I was up that, in time to see it every Saturday morning. Just kind of fascinating, new technology and a decent cartoon, not just a gimmick or whatever. We got the X-Men. Anybody who lived through the 90s remembers the iconic X-Men cartoon from the 90s. I liked the X-Men one better than I liked the Spider-Man. And I'm a Spider-Man fan, but there was something weird about the Spider-Man cartoon. But the X-Men, it was really good. All right, Saturday during the day, you got sports, you got old movies, you got some Bustin' Loose movie from 1981. So we don't go too deep on the daytime stuff. It's like the NCAA tournament was going on in March, which makes sense. Renegade, everybody remember that show? Dude had an insane mullet, man. Mullets were... 90s was the decade of mullets. 80s was a decade of jerry curls. 90 was a decade of mullets. And if you had a mullet, you should definitely be ashamed. If you had a rat tail, if you know what that is and you had one, come on. Come on. Sorry. Saturday night, we got Dr. Quinn, Office, but that's not The Office. Mrs. Buchanan's. Walker, Texas Ranger is around. I'm trying not to be mean on some of these because I could really roast some of these, but maybe some people grew up in the 90s and they love these. Empty Nest, Mommies, Sweet Justice, and Bob Hope. Hopefully there'll be some ads, or we'll see what's going on, see some guest stars or whatever. Let's see what else. Dr. Quinn, Cops, America's Most Wanted, so Saturday night on Fox. Looks like For the Love of Manatees. I wonder if that was that UPN. There's Star Trek Voyager going up against TNG. Man, that's not fair. And Star Trek fans will know what TNG is, and the rest of y'all will be like, what is he talking about? A couple ads here, but not a lot, but a couple to give us some context. Just checking quickly for some stars and co-stars here on some of these shows. Mommies. So this is that Office show that nobody probably remembers. I think that's the girl from Sex and the City. I could be wrong though. It doesn't look like her nose. It looks like her face, but not her nose. Maybe we'll try to see who was on it if they list them. Valerie Harper, Deborah Jo Rupp. Other than Valerie, I guess they're trying to make her carry the show, so maybe that's why that never caught on. I recognize her though. What's this Mommies? Shallow Strong. Looks like they're just throwing stuff at the wall, see what will stick, because I'm not seeing a lot of big names. 5 Mrs. Buchanan's. Don't recognize the people that are in that. Here's that Bob Hope thing. Man, I know if you're not a Star Trek fan, you probably don't care about this, but man, it was kind of amazing. They had Voyager, Deep Space Nine, and Next Generation all going. So it was the heyday of Star Trek fans back then, and I was down for it. Bob Hope, Young comedians? I mean, who are these people? Alan Thicke. Yeah, I'm afraid I don't recognize any of these comedians. A new generation of laughs. Alright, yeah, this TV guy's so thick, it's like pretty crinkly, but hopefully you all don't mind. Some ASMR or whatever they call it. Showtime at the Apollo with Men at Large. Let's see what else. Austin City Limits. Yanni in Concert. Yanni was definitely huge in the 90s. John Goodman's hosting Saturday Night Live. What's this Nightman movie? Who's in this? Joanna Kearns is in a movie called The Nightman. I just gave you another deep cut, especially for the Joanna Kearns fans out there. Mom from Growing Pains, if you don't remember. I have total recall on all this stuff. Sunday morning's also not tons to look at. I mean, I'm sure there's a few little interesting deep cuts on here, but I'm not going to read through it all just to see. Messengers from Moscow. Oh boy, they're still doing anti-Soviet propaganda, even though the Soviet Union fell like 3 or 4 years before this. Mary Poppins, showing it on a random Sunday in 95. Let's see if they say who's on the tennis. Pete Sampras, Andre Agassi, come on. I wonder if Agassi's still married to Steffi Graf. Porky Pig and Sylvester's birthday. And something on MTV called Chillin' with the Whites. W-I-Z. W-I-E-Z. It doesn't ring a bell. I know Real World was on at this point. Maybe we'll spot that. Maybe I'll do my hot take on that. Maybe not. We'll see. Deep Space Nine. So those you Trekkers, Trekkies, whatever out there, which one was your favorite? I mean, TMG is hard to top, but Deep Space Nine never really connected with me. Sunday night we got Murder, She Wrote. One channel is just showing Backdraft. Lois and Clark. There's a snapshot into the 90s with what's her name? Terry Hatcher, right? Let's see what else. Simpsons, The Critic. I like that Critic show for whatever reason. Married with Children, Tales from the Crypt. That's pretty strong. So Fox is going for it, man. Fox is hitting their stride in 95. I think Batman, the animated series, also came on Fox. Alright, just checking some guest stars and stuff here. Let's take a quick peek at MTV. I don't want to focus on it too much, but Singled Out. Who remembers that show? I vaguely remember it. I think it was like a dating show, game show. Spring Break Rocks, Beavis and Butthead. Oh man, Beavis and Butthead was such a breakthrough in my opinion. It was dumb stuff. I mean, it was mostly for guys, but I'm a guy. All right, here are these movies. They look kind of crazy and great. Let's see what's going on here. We got The Other Woman with Jill Eikenberry from LA Law, I believe. Melrose Place's Lori Leighton. I was never a Melrose guy. And then we got Tracy Gold, Sleep Baby Sleep. She's gonna put you to sleep with the dude from Northern Exposure, I think. No, he was on that early edition show, which I thought was a cool show. Come on, 90s people. I'm pulling some gems out of my brain, even though I wasn't totally plugged in the 90s. All right, let's see what else. Super Dave, come on. That's a great snapshot as well. Yeah, I like that Critic show. It was a cartoon, if you remember. I don't know what it was about it that I liked, but... Yeah, and again, I say it every time, but these ads help give some context, because if I saw Kyle Chandler, I may not know that name, but I remember him from that early edition or whatever that show was. Yeah, lots of stuff in the 90s, and some decent stuff too. Some good stuff that's stood the test of time. Because even Deep Space Nine is still great, Just not the top one for me. Babylon 5, never got into that, but there's another one for you. All right, this is late Sunday night. Early Monday morning. Look at that. How much is this? Oh, $60 for that. I mean, that's probably fair. I'll give it a fair rating as far as the price goes. VR Troopers. I vaguely remember that. Bobby's World. Used to like that guy, but then he's just become annoying. That Howie Mandel dude. He was pretty good in the 80s. Conan the Adventurer. I wonder if that's like a cartoon. Barney and Friends. The Beginning of the End for us. Barney and Teletubbies. Lots of beginning of the ends from the 90s, but again, I'll try to be nice. Wonder Years coming on in the mornings. Darkwing Duck. I never got into that, but I know a lot of people love that too. I was an Animaniacs guy. Some of these things, you don't know why you gravitate towards it. Like, I think Animaniacs was pretty clever, if I recall. Some clever humor. I'm a fan of clever stuff sometimes. Sometimes you just want to turn your brain off, though. Uh-oh, Rush Limbaugh's on TV. That's not a good sign. He's on at 11:30 and he's on at 12. Might be different markets, though. Jenny Jones, who remembers that? Another Beginning of the End. Ricki Lake. she's a really good actress. She's been in some good movies, too, if you don't know. You can probably find her on IMDb. I know she was in was it Crybaby? But she's been in some pretty decent movies, and she's always really good. All right, so we're into Monday. Haven't seen anything about the Oscars yet. I think they said it's coming on. Yeah, it might be coming on this night. We'll see. Oh. Let's see what Bill Nye's doing. He scopes out Mount Wilson Observatory in California. Man, I bet that's cool. They got such amazing landscape in California compared to us on the East Coast. All right, I see a 90s classic already. I see a couple. The Nanny, Fresh Prince, and yeah, it looks like Oscars are coming on Monday night. So they're just mostly just throwing some movies on there to compete with it. Here we go. Wonder Years, Doogie Howser, Beverly Hills 90210. Don't remember them being on the same channel though. That's weird. But yeah, I was a Doogie guy. I'm proud to admit it. Not ashamed. Let's see, MTV. Alright, I'm not seeing The Real World, so maybe my hot take on The Real World will not go into it. Okay, so the E channel was around in '95. That's interesting. And check out Melissa Rivers looking super young there. Yeah, I do not remember the E channel in the mid '90s, but it just might have been not one of those I was looking for. All right, here we go. We got some listings here, so this is great. And trust me, even though this looks like it's all text, this will take us back to the time. So up for Best Actress in '95, we got Jodie Foster for Nell. We got Jessica Lange in Blue Sky. Miranda Richardson and Tom and Viv. Winona, come on, we're pro Winona here. We love Winona. We were always in love with Winona. And Little Women, and Susan Sarandon and a Client. That's a pretty good movie if I recall. Oh, Travolta's in Pulp Fiction, Tom Hanks in Forrest Gump, Morgan Freeman in Shawshank. Man, look at all these movies. And then some crazy stuff. I mean, I liked Paul Newman, but that wasn't a great movie. But there's more here. They got Best Film, Best Director, so let's look at some of those. So Best Film in 1995, back when the Oscars actually meant something. You got Forrest Gump, you got Four Weddings and a Funeral. I'll never understand why people like that. Pulp Fiction, Quiz Show, and Shawshank. Man, that's stiff competition right there. Let's see Best Supporting Actress. Rosemary Harris. They must have really liked that Tom and Viv movie. Helen Mirren, she's great. Uma Thurman for Pulp Fiction. Jennifer Tilly and Diane Weist. Some big names there. All right, that's fun. And I guess you'd have to Google it or go watch it on YouTube to see who won. I recently watched the entire 1985 Grammys on YouTube. It was pretty fun. Lots of great live performances. Here's a who's who of actors and actresses back then. I'm not going to call them all out. We got Arnold. We got Jamie Lee Curtis. Mel Gibson, Andie MacDowell, Keanu, Annette Bening, Holly Hunter, Sigourney, Tim Allen, okay, Anna Paquin. I don't remember her being around that early. I remember first seeing her in that X-Men movie in like 97 or 8 or whenever that was. All right, we're only into Monday. We've seen some good stuff already. Where are my 90s people at? I'm an 80s guy. I'm out of my element here. Star Trek The Next Gen. Blade Warriors. Northern Exposure. There's a great 90s show. I never got too into that, but it was fun. It was a nice show. Enjoyable show. You might remember enjoyable shows. R.I.P. enjoyable shows. All right, we're into Tuesday. Another World. Not to be confused with... Oh, Another World was a soap. I was going to say A Different World is the one I was thinking of. Another World was a soap. Something called Toby Terrier. Children's show. In my opinion, these are fun because you could Google something like Toby Terrier and see if it's any good or not. There's Power Rangers. All right, Tuesday night. Under One Roof, Burke's Law. We all remember Rescue 911. Wings, that was a pretty good show. News Radio, Frasier. That's pretty strong. Full House, Thunder Alley, Home Improvement, there we go. Bringing Up Jack, NYPD Blue, wow. So that's a great snapshot of the 90s. Full House, Home Improvement, NYPD Blue. Should I do my deep dive on NYPD Blue? I'm going to go ahead and do it because who knows how many of these 90 ones we're going to go through. David Milch was the head writer on that. And once he left, the quality of writing fell off a cliff, and I mean right away. So as a pretty big NYPD Blue fan, I don't know what season it was, maybe it's like season 4 or 5, the writing just fell off a cliff, and it became a pretty schlocky show. That's one of my hot takes on NYPD Blue. I've got 2 or 3 hot takes on it, but that's the only one I'll do for now. Beavis and Butthead. Wonder if any females like that, or if they all hated it. I mean, it was pretty lowbrow, but I was down for lowbrow. All right, where are we at? We're on Tuesday evening. Look at this. Brian De Palma. Huh. I have not. This one doesn't ring a bell for me. Brian De Palma is a pretty great director. He has directed a couple weird ones, so maybe this is one of the weird ones. Because John Lithgow is kind of an unwatchable dude in everything he does. But I've never heard of Raising Cain by Brian De Palma. And Lolita Davidovich was like the big thing in the early 90s. Yes, I remember all these names for some weird reason. Under One Roof. Let's see who's on this show. Vanessa Bell. James Earl Jones is on it. Oh. I wonder. It's a 1-hour drama. Sounds decent. Yeah, De Palma's bringing back Stephen Bauer. He was also directed by De Palma in Scarface. Any Stephen Bauer fans out there? Show of hands. We all remember Home Improvement. We don't remember Bringing Up Jack, sadly. Wow, this Thunder Alley sitcom has Haley Joel Osment in it. He must have been super young, because he wasn't in Sixth Sense until like 98, 99? That's wild. We always learn something here on this old YouTube channel of mine, if I do say so myself. All you Haley Joel Osment completists will now have to go out and get the full series of Thunder Alley on DVD. I'm joking half the time, folks. Hopefully you see that. We're having fun. Let's see who else is on this Bringing Up Jack. If they got this guy with any help in terms of co-stars, because nobody's tuning in to see Jack Gallagher. Jeff Garland, isn't that dude on Curb Your Enthusiasm? All right, we're already getting into Wednesday. Jon Stewart had a show. My uncle was on his show once. It's kind of a funny clip, but you kind of got to know the whole context and stuff to really get it. Like me and my brother were the only ones that get the reference. Mike and Maddie, that rings a bell. Planet Hollywood, that's another snapshot into the 90s. What a strange money laundering scheme that was. Video vibrations on BET. Yeah, we'd definitely be watching videos on MTV and BET nonstop back then. Watching Shantae Moore, watching Toni Braxton. All right, Wednesday night in 1995, George Wendt got his own self-titled sitcom. How insane is that? Then something called Double Rush. One-on-One, remember that show? That rings a bell. Roseanne, Ellen, Grace Under Fire. That's pretty strong. And I'm not necessarily a fan of all those, but that's a strong lineup. You gotta give credit where it's due. Sliders is on. Where are my Sliders people at? Come on, this is some good 90s stuff right here, folks. Parenthood. Wayans Brothers, Unhappily Ever After, I think. Hercules, oh dear. The beginning of the end. Okay, I'll try not to say that too many more times, but Hercules, come on, folks. That qualifies as beginning of the end category. Just checking MTV again. All right, I guess we got the Real World. All right, here comes the Real World hot take. That's what you're here for. Weird thing. So all jokes aside, Real World really was the beginning of the end. And I loved the show. The first couple seasons, I was like addicted to it. But come on, that was the beginning of trash TV. You gotta admit it. The other weird, funny thing about the Real World is it was the same producers who did the Cosby Show. So they went from like a family show that celebrated, professional family love, to just reality TV trash, sensationalism, scripted, putting conflicting personalities together on purpose. I'll leave it at that because that was a little bit of a rant, but it is what it is. And like I said, I say all that saying that I was definitely down for the first few seasons of the Real World. Great ad for 90210. There's Sliders if you don't remember. The dude from Stand By Me. Look at these great ads. Yeah, this is what makes some of this. One of the things that makes these fun is going through these ads. Yeah, there's the Grace Under Fire, and there's that guy they're pushing. I guess that one just never caught on. They gave it his best shot. I mean, they put it after all these great comedies. Someone on TBS called Cats and Dogs. Alan Alda's still trying to hang out and stay relevant. What was I going to look for? Yeah, George went. Let's see who else was on that. Nobody. Man, at least put somebody else on there. Oh, Burnett. Oh, I thought it was Burnett Peters. Bernadette Burkett. That's a big difference. You heard me get excited when I thought I said Bernadette Peters. Uh-oh. Gregory Hines. And the girl from Designing Women? Yeah. That's decent. I mean, you got two good talents there. That's how you do it. What's this double rush? The messengers attempt to console heartbroken young woman. So are they like bike messengers or something? Is that why it's double rush? David Arquette, for goodness sakes. What a basket case. All right, let's see what else is on here. All right, we got some good ads. Check out Doogie Howser over here. Kicking it in a movie called My Antonia. And we got Andy Kaufman's special. That looks fun because look at all these great comics they got on there. She'd be on there because she was his co-star on Taxi. Michael Richards, Bob Saget's great. Rodney's all-time legend. Also got Sinbad. He was at the top of his game in the 90s. All right, we're only on to Wednesday, so I'm going to try to pick up the pace just a little bit. So I've given you some hot takes on NYPD Blue and on the Real World. Haven't seen Batman the Animated Series. Let's see if we can see that. See if it's on in the afternoons or something. I think this is Wednesday in the middle of the night. We'll try to look for it on Thursday. Because we know that's probably the best animated superhero cartoon of all time. Not to like put a high bar out there, but it just doesn't get much better than Batman the Animated Series in the 90s. Don't see it though. Could be right in front of me. Sometimes there's so much to read. I'm trying to keep things moving. Tasmania. Yeah, Taz was super popular in the 90s. Yeah, it's like in North Carolina, they did not have Batman the Animated Series on. All right. All right, Thursday night, 1995. Due South. Connie Chung. Jeez, Mad About You. There we go. Another 90s classic. Hope and Gloria, Seinfeld, Friends. Oh dear. ER. Yeah, so Friends, ER, man. Some people lived and died by those shows in the 90s. I don't think I've ever watched either one of those. Never hope to. The Commish. I did watch some Commish. Again, don't ask me why, but I dug the Commish. Extreme and Day One. Wonder Years, Doogie Howser. Martin. Everybody in the 90s remembers Martin and Living Single. And New York Undercover. I wasn't into New York Undercover, but a lot of people were. Yeah, it's Thursday night. There's a lot of great stuff there, especially like to put you back in the 90s. Oh, I remember that Due South. That rings a bell. It's actually a decent premise because this guy was like a wise guy kind of dude, and he was like an uptight Mountie or something. Good, you know, oil and water type setup. Any oil and water fans out there? Let's see. Let's try to see what a couple of these were. Well, we saw what Due South is. That was helpful. I thought there was one other one that oh, Extreme. Yeah, I don't know what Extreme is. Let's see what that is. Kyle gets personally involved in tracking down a bear poacher. James Brolin. Okay. I mean, you know, that's decent. Not many other big names there, though. Yeah, that's interesting. It's a show called Extreme. Any of these would probably be fun to look up because, you know, it's the 90s. There's a certain aesthetic that's always fun. Who's on the commish? Nobody in particular. Yeah, I don't know why I like the commish because, I don't know. It is what it is. All right, that's Thursday, so that leaves Friday night. Let's take one last ditch effort to see if we got Batman. I don't see it. All right. Catch it in another one, maybe. Muppet Babies. Oh, did I miss it? Here it goes. So here's the Friday evening. Diagnosis: murder. Right verdicts. Picket fences was big in the 90s. Unsolved mysteries. Man. Homicide: Life on the Street was an interesting crime drama. Kind of gritty. Family Matters, Sister. Come on, folks. We watched both of those shows in the 90s. Come on now. Step by Step, On Our Own. Step by Step rings a bell. Is that the one with Patrick Duffy? Let's see what else. X-Files. I know some of y'all were addicted to X-Files. No shame. Cool sci-fi show. I was probably watching Voyager, watching Captain Janeway run the show, as only women can. Pigsty. Be great if we could see some pictures of all these, like to see what this pigsty thing is. Because sometimes just looking at the write-up just doesn't give you enough clues. All right, let's see if we can see what right verdict is, or I don't know, On Our Own maybe, 9 and 9:30. Because we all remember, you know, Family Matters, Diagnosis with Murder. Here's the right verdicts thing. Okay, this is why we all forgot about it, because look at this. Nobody's tuning in for that. And this is the series premiere, for goodness sakes. Let's see what it says. A flamboyant British-born attorney hanging out in Manhattan. Got Leslie Mann in it. Got all females in it. I mean, that's good. That's a plus. What was that 9:30 thing? On Our Own. Cracker Jack coffee shop manager has a crisis to manage. That Takia Crystal, I think that was the girl from In Living Color. I could be wrong there. All right. All right, late night on Friday night. Was there anything going on? I guess it was Friday night videos was probably over with because everybody had cable now. All right, we found a lot of good 90s gems in here, and we're not done. We got the movie guy. We got some back matter. Let's check out the hot takes on these movies. So if you haven't seen my other videos, they do this little quick rundown of what's on the cable channel. So like HBO, Showtime. And what's funny is TV Guide gives their own little 1 out of 4 star ratings. And sometimes they're good, sometimes they're way off. So I'm going to give my counterpunch if I see any that I disagree with here. And we won't go through all of them because there's not enough time. Let's see what we got here. Bad Lieutenant. That was a strange movie, man. Ben-Hur, for goodness sakes. Don Johnson is some movie called The Pursuit of Honor. That's pretty hilarious. They didn't like that Beverly Hillbillies movie, which, you know, I can't argue with that. Something called Blood Fist 5. Any Blood Fist 5 fans out there? See, they like Butch Cassidy. He gave it 4 stars, which that makes sense, you know. All-time classic. Sometimes it's just fun to see the ones that they didn't like that were pretty good. They like Dangerous Liaisons. I'll say this, if you are an Uma Thurman fan, go watch Dangerous Liaisons. I will leave it at that, and you can thank me later. Let's see what else. Delirious. Is that? Oh, okay. My Girl. That's a great snapshot from the 90s. We got nowhere to go, folks. We're having fun. Let's check out some of these movies. Ghost of the Machine. Gandhi. The Great Bikini Off-Road Adventure. They gave 0 stars, and they're probably right about that. I've never seen them give 0 stars, though. They probably like, man, we're tapping out on this one. They like that Honey, I Shrunk the Kids show. Quick question for those out there. You can answer for me. Why was Rick Moranis? I just need to put that out there. Why was Rick Moranis? All right, let's see what else. Indecent Proposal. Is that one? Yeah, that was definitely a snapshot of the 90s. All right. Let's see if we see any others. Oh, that's a pretty decent movie. The Paper with Michael Keaton. I recently saw that. Of course, it had like commercials and stuff. But that was a decent movie. If you just like solid, good 90s movies, check out The Paper. Nothing great, but pretty solid movie. I think Glenn Close is in it or something. Anything else here? I don't want to linger too long, but I do like to see their crazy ratings on some stuff. They only gave, say, here we go. All right, here we go. They only gave Poetic Justice 2 stars. That's a great movie, man. I give that at least 3 or 4. Poetic Justice is a great movie. Still holds up. I just watched it a few months ago. So much heart, so much soul. Great movie. Maybe John Singleton's masterpiece, even though we all know Boys in the Hood. So yeah, you see, I disagree with these TV Guide people sometimes. All right, see, they gave that the same as they gave Wayne's World 2. Get real. All right, here's a horoscope for 1995, and a little doll there. All right, I think we only have 1 cigarette ad. This has been March of 1995. Thanks for joining me, folks.